You have 77 counties in Oklahoma. I can put reports in them in 66 counties.
911, what are you reporting?
We got someone or something crawling around out here.
Did you see what it was?
I'd say it was a person or somebody really big. But he's all in black.
Welcome back to Squatch Ranger Files, episode 15. I'd like to give a shout out to a new friend of mine named Timothy Parker, whose art I will be showcasing on today's episode. Be on the lookout for some of the art of Bigfoot. Thank you, Timothy Parker, for your hard work. I've got some very exciting news, guys. Right now, I am at 79 subscribers on YouTube. My goal is to hit the 100 subscribers mark, so I need your help. I am holding a contest. When I hit 100 subscribers on my YouTube channel, I am going to hold a drawing for a free prize. The prize is a Bigfoot made out of clay. I will show the picture of the prize in a later episode. So, if you would like to enter the drawing, all you have to do is email squatchranger@gmail.com. Label your email Bigfoot Drawing. In the email, give me your contact information and I will enter your name into the drawing. The drawing date will be revealed in a later episode. Please share my YouTube channel with all of your friends and get all of your Bigfoot friends and all the people in your Bigfoot circles to subscribe to Squatch Ranger. Okay, it's now time to start Squatch Ranger Files, episode 15. Number 1. Men hear low growls in wildlife management area. 2012 in Faulkner County, Arkansas. Class B vocalizations. In November of 2012, I went hiking with a friend around the Camp Robinson Wildlife Management area near Lake Conway. The place was absolutely abandoned, so we decided to do a few calls out into the valley. The first call I did had great echo and reverb over the valley. My friend and I are both skeptical about Sasquatch, but I kid you not, within 15 seconds of that first call, something from behind us in the brush, right along the access road, started growling a low, guttural growl. This animal was obviously irritated at what I was doing and made it known loud and clear. Before I could look over, my buddy was already in the front seat of my vehicle, signaling for me to get in so we could get the hell out of there. And that we did. Hightailed it back to Conway. I do most of my hiking in northwest Arkansas now, and am only somewhat familiar with the wildlife in the area. Was this growl I heard a type of sound that a wild hog could have possibly made? And would it be irritated by me doing a loud call like that? I have seen one small black bear in northwest Arkansas and was able to scare him off just by snapping a twig. This animal did not run off, but growled at us right there from the brush line. I've still been scratching my head over this one. Anyone know of any wildlife in central Arkansas that could make such a deep growl? Follow up. Native Oklahoma Bigfoot Research Organization. Investigators report. I talked to the witness over the internet, and he was able to provide me with a little more information. The witness stated, "I don't know a lot about Sasquatch, aside from a few documentaries I've seen, and some things online. But I do a lot of hiking, and am outdoors quite often, and this sound was something I've never heard before. It was not a grunt, but like I said, it was a really sustained growl. that was almost like a deep drone sound. I don't recall smelling anything at the time, but then again, my main focus was getting back into my vehicle as quickly as I could. I'm still skeptical about Sasquatch, but I do think a type of species is definitely plausible. Number 2. Man spots hairy man walking to the tree line. 2007 in Sumner County, Kansas. Class A, daytime sighting, and Class B, eyeshine. It was between 2007 and 2008. I was with a friend in his car, and so me and a few friends were driving down dirt roads around my buddy's parents' place, just south of South Haven, about 10 minutes from the border with Oklahoma. The first one happened during the day, and if I'm remembering correctly, it was late summer, and we were driving, and it's known that on this dirt road, there is a Bigfoot cutout. But we had passed it, and off to the side of the road, going into one of the dozens of tree lines, I see what looked to me like a big hairy man walking into the tree line. I had another sighting on that same road, near that spot, during the night, but all I saw that time was some eyeshine and strange movement. Now, I'm not a career woodsman by any stretch, but I grew up in the mountains, and my dad made sure that I knew my way around the wilderness and knew what was out there, and I'm about 80% sure that it was not a bear or anything like that. Not to mention that a bear being out there would be highly unlikely. There was a ton of really strange things that happened out there involving other possible cryptids and UFOs. Not that they're related, but could be. Until recently, I had just kind of a passing interest in Bigfoot, but like I said, I've started diving into it head first recently. Number 3. The following is a native Oklahoma Bigfoot research organization documented report. 3 campers have rock thrown into campfire. 2014 in Murray County, Southeast Oklahoma. Class B rock throwing, Class B vocalizations, and Class A nighttime sighting. This incident occurred within the Chickasaw National Recreation Area, or CNRA, northeast portions of Lake of the Arbuckles. This report was given by one of 3 men that were staying over the weekend at a primitive camping area within the CNRA. On the Saturday night of June 2014, all 3 men were at their campsite enjoying their meal next to the campfire when a small rock was tossed into the middle of their campfire, hitting a rock that was in the ring of the fire and bouncing back towards one of the men's feet. As no warning of the rock being thrown, none of the men knew which direction the rock had been thrown from. 2 of the men quickly stood up, and one had a small flashlight and started scanning the wooded area that surrounded them. No sounds or movement were heard for the next 30 to 40 minutes. One of the men went to his vehicle to retrieve a firearm to place it in his tent for when he goes to sleep and he would feel safer. Approximately around 10:30 p.m., all 3 men heard a distant howl that lasted more than 20 seconds. The howl created a frenzy of coyote howls and screams from multiple directions. They said the first howl sounded deeper and louder than the coyotes. One of the men is an avid Bigfoot believer and said that he watches every show and movie about Bigfoot. The other two men laughed and mocked him for the rest of the night until they went to bed. They each slept in their own tents that were separated by 15 feet or more from each one. After about an hour, one of the men, a non-believer, said he was woken up by something slowly creeping up on his tent from behind. He laid there and said he could count the seconds between each step. He said he could hear one of the other guys snoring to his left, and he thought, well, one of them is asleep. He continued to lay there, thinking it was his other friend that was about to play a joke on him. When the footsteps were immediately behind his tent, he called out to his friend, telling him he better not try and be funny, that he is armed. His friend answered back from the other direction and said, I am in my tent, and there is something next to me. I can hear it breathing. The campfire was completely out, and there was a heavy tree canopy where they set up their camp, so as they described, it was very dark, and shadows were hard to make out. The one man that was armed turned a small flashlight light on his tent and started to put his boots on, when whatever was behind him shifted its weight and either bumped or hit the tent and stomped off. This commotion startled the man, and he yelled out with unpleasant language. The other man, with something near his tent, said just as that was happening, whatever was next to his tent took off into the woods as well. He could hear branches breaking and heavy footsteps going further away from his tent. All three men gathered by the campfire, looking to rekindle the fire and talk about what just happened. One man said, we need more small branches to stoke the fire. When he walked away, he turned on his light and pointed it in the direction opposite of their tents. His intention was to walk a few feet and look on the ground for twigs and small branches. His beam of light hit something that was shiny from back in the woods, roughly about 20 yards, he said. He was still trying to fully get his eyes to focus from being asleep. He described that his light was pointing parallel to the ground, about 3 to 4 feet off the ground. He saw a small head that looked like it had hair on the face, and the flashlight was causing the eyes to shine. He said they were big eyes, and immediately the head disappeared behind a tree. He yelled at the other two men to say, I just saw something looking at me from back in those trees. Other words were used, but we will spare the reader of this report of the foul language that was used. The men stoked the fire and sat next to it until sunlight came that morning. The men looked around for footprints and tracks. They didn't find anything that was significant. They packed up their gear and departed the area. They had stopped on the way out of town at a small gas station when they happened to ask the clerk about strange events at the CNRA. The clerk remained quiet and didn't answer. However, when they started to walk out of the store, an older gentleman said, You see something that scare you? One of the men replied and said, Yes, have you? The gentleman said, There is a lot of strange noises that come from those woods. The men stood and talked to the older gentleman for a few minutes and learned that he lives just to the east of the CNRA and has heard strange howls and screams come from the far north end of the lake. The men departed for home, talking about their experience all 3 hours. Follow-up: Native Oklahoma Bigfoot Research Organization Investigators Report by an NOBRO investigator. This investigator has stayed at the CNRA on multiple occasions over the past 5 to 6 years and has many stories of his own. This case is considered closed.